Hi there, welcome back to part 2 of our What is Family Dysfunction series. Um, my name is Rita Roberts, Reiki Rita Roberts. I'm a holistic family coach and parent educator. So just to continue off from our last video, if you haven't seen the first one about what is family dysfunction, basically talking about fear-focused families versus love-focused families, which are functional families. Go back and listen to it. But if you're on board and ready for part 2, here we are. So I'm going to talk about a couple of common myths that, sayings and things you hear on the streets with regards to families and family dysfunction. Every family is dysfunctional, Rita. I hear that all the time. And to be honest with you, they're right. Because dysfunction means ignorance, a lack of skills and experience and knowledge. And because we're all basically handed over a child with no experience or skills, we are all dysfunctional. The other part of that is that no person is perfect. We're all a little bit flawed. So because we're imperfect, then there is going to be some level of dysfunction in our parenting. But that's not what we're thriving for here. So that's a fact. We're thriving for healthy, for happy, for emotionally stable parenting to raise and nurture the emotional needs of your child. So, yes, if every family is dysfunctional, and I do agree, then what type are you? So that's a part is that we're going to talk about, focus on today. All right? So, basically there's 3 types of parents. All right? We have the obvious, what I call irresponsible, which are dysfunctional. Those are dysfunctional parents. The obvious dysfunction. Then we have the responsible parent, and I'm going to elaborate a little bit more, still with some form of dysfunction. And then, of course, we have the conscious parent. This isn't a perfect parent, it's just a present parent. So we'll talk a bit more about it. So let's break that down. I got my little cue cards. All right. So irresponsible, these are the dysfunctional. So I wish we would all stop saying everyone's dysfunctional. There's different levels. Some people can, be resilient. They can come out of a dysfunctional, fear-based home and rise above it, but it takes a lot of emotional healing. There's others that have responsible homes, but their children still feel unloved. So that still has some form of dysfunction. So let's break it down step by step and just go through them quickly. All right. So irresponsible are obvious dysfunctional parents. These are the ones that are fear-based, they have low energy, they're more ego-centered, and they're more self-centered because a lot of their energy needs to be self-focused. So these tend to have characteristics like addicts, controllers, they sound like victims, oh, woe is me, They tend to show up as bullies. They could sound very needy. They're dramatic, and they're also narcissists. So that's some of the flags that they fall under. They're very obvious. They're physically and emotionally wounded parents because of the generational cycle of dysfunction. They are also what I call default parents, that they don't have the skills, the ability to rise above it because they're saturated in their emotional wounds. Now, I'm not saying they're not justified. I'm just saying that their parenting is going to suffer as a result of them living in their emotional wounds. All right? So they tend to become absent parents, neglectful parents, sometimes abusive and controlling parents. Because again, their energy is low, trying to nurture whatever they've got left to take care of their unhappiness. All right. So those are what I want to say are dysfunctional, sort of negative parenting, focusing basically on their own survival. All right. Children that come out of those families have a really hard time feeling loved, low self esteem, low self worth, and a lot of times they have to play the parent, which emotionally wounds them in so many other ways, which we don't have time to get into today. But I want you to really realize the irresponsible, the ignorance is all because they're focusing on the self. Okay? Now, I'm not blaming all these parents. We're all wounded at some level because of the lack of skills and knowledge as parents. Of course, if I often use the analogy of a car. If you're driving in you're in the driver's seat and I put a blindfold on you and you drive, it's going to be really hard to be a responsible, safe driver when you don't know what you're doing. You could potentially kill yourself, someone out there, or your children in the back seat. So this is kind of where we're at. And that introduces me next to the responsible parent. And this is where most people fall through. Now, people might get their back, this is the ones that get their backs up and say, well, I'm not dysfunctional, because they're comparing themselves to these parents. However, responsible parents have it half right. They take care of all the physical needs of their children. They put a roof over their head, food on the table, they get them to school on time, they're, getting them the exercise they need, they enroll them into these classes and, soccer and dance and whatever. So they're responsible. They do their best to nurture their emotional needs, their mental needs, say the right things. However, the part that's missing is they're physically present, but they're only got they're usually still emotionally absent. And if you don't believe me, then think about it. There's a lot of parents, this is where most of us fall into, the responsible, okay, that still walk away saying, well, I guess I turned out right, but I don't feel loved by my mom or dad. Well, then that means that the emotional part is missing from these parents, typically because they don't nurture their own emotional needs, or they're still struggling with some form of emotional wounds themselves. But they're still far more functional than the dysfunctional parent. So they're out there. It's sort of like the functioning alcoholic. They're drinking to suppress their emotional hurt, but they can still manage to function. Well, responsible parents are the same way. They're still pretty wounded because they're still taking the wrong jobs. They're not putting themselves first. They're not finding time to eat well, or exercise. So they're not nurturing themselves. A lot of them struggle with self-love too, but they're still very responsible, taking care of their children and still want the best for their kids, but they don't always put themselves first either. So that's sort of people I'm targeting, because I want to bring them, you, if this is you as well, into the next level of parenting, which is the ideal type of parent. This is the conscious parent. Notice I didn't say the perfect parent. Again, they're not perfect, they're just present. In the world of distractions that we live in, it's getting even harder to be a conscious parent. Even responsible parents are becoming neglectful because they're distracted with those bloody phones, all right, or the drama in the world. So we want to become this is where functionality lives. The characteristics of conscious parents are they're, again, not perfect, they're present, all right? They know how to say sorry, they know how to apologize. They're aware, they're paying attention to all the small stuff, and that's how their children feel loved. They practice self-love and respect for themselves, all right? They make themselves a priority, they nurture their own needs. They know what they unconditionally love themselves. Because if you don't unconditionally love yourself, how are you going to unconditionally love your child? I hear this all the time. It's mind-boggling. They also have emotional intelligence. All right, that means that their emotions are in a healthy place. They've worked through or are consciously working through their emotional pain from their own suppressed childhood issues. And, they're conscious of it. So they're paying attention to try not to let their own sadness or unhappiness spill onto their children. So they're conscious of it. All right. They also display leadership skills. They know how to set boundaries, how to say no when they have to, how to, set boundaries around technology. I hear this. I recently went to a parent conference, and this seems to be the number one problem is the addiction to technology. Children are obsessed, and it's really important that parents become conscious of the time the children are being influenced by these phones. Okay, so leadership skills. They are love-based, and they usually exude high energy. They're focused, they're very positive people, and they focus on, positivity, and they communicate well. They sit down and they have eye contact, and they speak from their heart, and they communicate well, and they listen. They pay attention. Okay? They're very open-minded as well. They're not always right. They're not always wrong, but they're open-minded, and they embrace change and move forward. They're positive, forward thinkers. Right, but most of all, they have happy, healthy emotions. They're working through a lot of the gunk that perhaps they even grew up with. I like to think of myself as conscious as well, that I grew up in a dysfunctional home and I work through a lot of the healing process. So that's the 3 types. Now, this is also learned. They're learned parents. That means they've learned these skills. They've learned the skills of communication, of eye contact, of body language, of leadership. They've learned all these sort of skills. They're not defaulting to what their parents were. They're actually authentic parents. They are themselves. They make no excuse for who they are, and they are themselves while they're a parent. They're not sounding like their mother or behaving like their father. Okay, so they're all learned parents. And that's sort of where I want to take you. So the last thing I want to say, and I hope you find this helpful to really know what the difference is. The last very important point I want to say to you is that according to your energy, okay, if your energy is high, because you can move through and become any one of these at any time, all right? Meaning, although you're a conscious person, if your energy is low one day, you might feel addicted that day, or you might just be irresponsible and just take care of your kids' physical needs, but not their emotional. So we can move through and become any one of these at any time, depending on your energy level. So I'm going to teach you as well about the importance of energy and how it affects where you're going to land each day. Now, overall, you fall into one of these types. But according to your energy, and we all know it, if I wake up or don't get enough sleep, or I'm around a lot of drama, or hearing a lot of negativity, or I'm afraid of something, I can go from being conscious that day to becoming more of an irresponsible parent. Well, I feel like saying, you know what, I don't want to be a mom today. I'm just going to, eat a chocolate bar or a bag of chips. And you become more of an irresponsible parent. But you don't stay there, all right? When your energy gets back up, right, you go back to being that conscious parent. So I just want to make that point, that you don't live there forever. You could, depending on your energy, move from stage to stage. The goal is to basically focus most of your time in this conscious area, okay? And those days that you are unconscious or just being responsible or irresponsible, conscious people know how to recognize that, go back and apologize for being absent that day. That's the difference, okay? So that's all I want to say today. I hope this does clear up some confusion about what's dysfunction, what type of parent, why this happens, and so forth and so on. From here now, I want you to, share the video with other people if you find it helpful. Go on to my YouTube channel, subscribe, so you can, get first dibs on more information, more videos. I want you to like it on social media. And most of all, I want to give you that free checklist. If you haven't signed up for it yet, go ahead and do it, because we have to work on your emotions. Again, conscious parents are happy and they have healthy emotions. So if you haven't done it already, click the link below, download the free checklist, and let's get started. Please feel free to reach out with any questions or topics that you want me to talk about, and I could blog about them as well to help you out. So from my heart to yours, have a blessed, beautiful day, and I'll see you in the next video. Be well. God bless.